Charles Spurgeon, in speaking about this situation, says, "Oh, that men were wise enough to see that the suffering for Christ is honor. The loss for truth is gain. That the truest dignity rests in wearing the chain upon the arm rather than endure the chain upon the soul." Famed evangelist Dwight Moody called it the biggest mistake he had ever made. On October 8, 1871, he got up to speak in Chicago's Farwell Hall. It was a standing room only crowd. They counted the numbers. It was about 2,500 people. And he stood up. He opened the Bible and he looked at Matthew chapter 27 and verse 22. "What then shall I do with Jesus?" Pilate said. "What shall I do with Jesus, which they call the Christ?" The crowd listened. The crowd was engaged. And Moody, feeling the sense in the room, made a call. He challenged the audience to take a week to weigh the claims of Christ. Take 1 week and come back and make your decision. He promised that in a week he would be there in the same room, in the same place, and they could commit their life to Christ. As the meeting ended, he invited the evangelist Ira Sankey, as I invite our team up at this time. And they sang the song, "Today the Savior Calls." Sankey recalls the evening. By the time I had reached the 3rd verse, which says, "Today the Savior calls, for refuge fly, the storm of justice falls, and death is nigh," my voice was drowned out by the loud noise of the fire engines rushing past the hall and the tolling of bell after bell. It was the Chicago fire. Moody would later describe the 1-week challenge in this meeting as the biggest mistake he'd ever made. He often wondered how many of those 2,500 had lost their life in that fire. He later said, "I want to tell you the one lesson I learned that night. That is, I want to tell you that when I have the opportunity to preach, I press Christ upon the people then and there, and I try to bring them to a decision on the spot. I would rather have that right hand cut off than to give an audience now a week or even a day to decide what to do with Jesus."